Hello, everyone. Today's topic is the Buddha's warning: you won't find happiness that way. We all want different things in life, whether it's doing well at school and work, starting a family, or traveling the world sampling delicious foods. But each of our unique goals have one thing in common. We want these because we think they will make us happy. What this means, then, is that we are all seeking happiness. However, despite our best efforts, happiness just seems to elude us. We might assume it's because we're just not trying hard enough, or perhaps we're just fundamentally flawed in some way. But Buddhism says that actually it's neither of those things. The real problem, it teaches, is that our approach to happiness is all wrong. So then, how is it wrong? And what is the right approach to happiness? Let's hear what Buddha taught on this. We will go through the following 3 points. 1. Relative happiness. 2. How shameful, how sad. 3. Made of blind passions. Buddhism teaches that there are 2 kinds of happiness: relative happiness and absolute happiness. The happiness that we know of is relative happiness, and it is called such because it is based on comparisons. What does this mean? Well, think, for example, of a pen. Is the pen long or short? Without something to compare it to, you won't be able to make that judgment. If you put it next to another bigger pen, it will seem short. If you put it next to your little finger, it will seem long. Our judgment of the pen's qualities, then, is relative to what is around it. In much the same way, whether we feel happy or discontent about our own situation in life depends on what we are comparing it to. For example, let's say a lady is unhappy with her husband. She finds him dull and regrets marrying him. Her discontent stems from who she is comparing him to. She looks at her neighbor's husband, and he is this dashing, confident man with a very comfortable income who seems to get along quite excellently with his wife. The two always look so happy when they're with each other. The disgruntled lady thinks, why does she get to have such a perfect marriage while I'm stuck with this absolute bore of a man? If her neighbor's husband was a violent, abusive, good-for-nothing who squandered all his money on gambling, however, she would likely feel differently about her own husband. Well, she might think, he's not the most interesting of people, but he's nice to me. He's sensible with money, and he hasn't got a violent bone in his body. I guess I'm kind of lucky after all, huh? In this way, if we compare our situation with a better one, we'll feel hard done by. But if we compare our situation with a worse one, we'll see our own good fortune. In the Olympics, everyone who wins a medal is glad about it. Of course, those who win gold medals are the happiest. You might then assume that someone who wins a silver medal will be happier than someone who wins a bronze medal, but a silver medalist might well be painfully aware that if only they'd done a bit better, they could have won the gold. Meanwhile, the bronze medalists might feel lucky to have won anything at all. It's all relative. In January 2024, the Nippon Individual Savings Account, NISA, underwent a revamp to encourage Japanese households to gain income from stock investments. Many people who opened a NISA were delighted to find their savings getting a boost from these stocks over the course of some months. Those who had ordinary savings accounts, meanwhile, gained nothing extra and could only look on in jealous disgruntlement. That was, of course, until share prices plummeted and wiped out all those extra gains. Suddenly the tables were turned. Those with a NISA regretted opening one, while those without could feel smugly reassured that they were right not to bother with it after all. At this point, many NISA holders rushed to sell their stocks. Then, however, stock prices surged, restoring those previous gains and leaving those who sold their stocks regretting their decision. What a roller coaster! We can really see from all this that whether we feel happy or unhappy about our situation is entirely relative. It all depends on what we are comparing it to. The very same NISA can be a source of joy or misery, depending on whether we're better off with the stocks or better off without them, and this can fluctuate over time, even though the changes in stock prices don't actually affect the money we put into the account. Clearly, relative happiness is a very changeable and subjective thing. All this being the case, it is said that if we want to feel happy, we should avoid focusing on those who have it better than us and instead compare our situation with that of those who have it worse than us. If you think about it, though, that means feeling annoyed when we see others' good fortune and feeling relieved when we see others' misfortune. If we see others making a profit while we are not, we feel jealous and discontent. If, on the other hand, we see others missing out on profit due to their own actions while we rake in the cash, we feel a smug sense of satisfaction. Even so, going back to what happened with the nieces, some people who sold their stocks before the surge in prices feel quite content with their decision. Why? Because they've paid stock prices no mind since. They're not looking at those more fortunate than them, and their own situation is their only reference point, so they're not regretting their actions. If they later happen to see stock prices plummeting again, though, they'll feel all the gladder to have sold their stocks. This is how our happiness fluctuates based on comparisons, where one minute we might be rejoicing at having it better than others, the next we feel upset because now someone else has it better than us, even if there is no actual change to our own circumstances. That's how relative happiness works. So, if we want to gain more relative happiness, we have to compare our situation favorably to others. That means focusing as much as possible on those who are less fortunate than us. We have to be happy that they're suffering and we're not. Wait, what? Yes, that is the sad truth of relative happiness. It is essentially us taking joy in other people's suffering. That's pretty horrible, actually, isn't it? Our happiness stems from seeing others suffering and feeling glad that we have it better than them. There is a Japanese saying, the neighbor's poverty tastes as good as goose meat. In other words, when we see that our neighbors are poor in comparison to us, it brings us as much joy as we get from eating luxurious foods. There's also a companion saying that goes the opposite way. When the neighbors build a storehouse, we blaze up in fury. If the neighbors are clearly wealthier than us, we don't feel happy for them. We feel jealous and annoyed. Furthermore, we are more than willing to be gleeful spectators to misfortune so long as it does not directly affect us, as expressed by the saying, away from home, the bigger the fire, the greater the fun. It is quite entertaining to watch drama from afar, is it not? But would we be happy if someone else was enjoying watching our own conflicts and catastrophes like a sport? An old Japanese poem goes, press your ear to your mind. All that resounds are thoughts that you cannot bear to hear. We're trained from childhood to speak politely to others and told that if we can't say anything nice, then we shouldn't say anything at all. But succeed as we might to outwardly follow this rule, what kind of thoughts are going on in our minds? Are we always thinking things that are as nice as the things we say, or are our minds full of thoughts that we could never reveal to others? Master Shinran, having been shown his true nature by Buddha's wisdom, lamented, how grievous, how shameful, how sad. Upon pressing an ear to his mind, he had been horrified and ashamed to hear with full clarity the dreadful thoughts that came forth one after another. We too feel shame over our thoughts to some extent, which is why we try so hard to ensure our words don't give away what we're really thinking. Indeed, Sakyamuni Buddha said, the heart and the mouth do not agree. There is truth neither in what people say nor in what they think. What we say does not match with what we are actually thinking, and so there is no truth either in our thoughts or in our words. Since our sense of happiness is based on things of no truth as well, the happiness we know is fleeting and unstable and may suddenly disappear or be destroyed at any moment. Buddha taught that this is not true happiness. Let us explore this point further to understand why. In Section 7 of Tanisho, Master Shinran taught, in this world as fleeting and unstable as a burning house, inhabited by human beings beset by blind passions, all is idleness and foolishness, utterly devoid of truth. The blind passions include the likes of greed, anger, jealousy, and envy. And Buddhism teaches that human beings are made entirely of blind passions. It is precisely because we are made of blind passions that we derive our happiness from witnessing others' misfortune. The passions also make our every action mere idleness and foolishness, utterly devoid of truth. It is therefore completely impossible to gain true happiness from our own efforts. On top of that, we live in a world as fleeting and unstable as a burning house. Just as a burning house may collapse in on us at any moment, all the things in this world that make us happy are impermanent, and so we are constantly on edge, never quite sure when we will be abandoned, and by what. For instance, we might feel assured by the idea that we're financially stable for now, but we could actually lose all of that money at any point, and there's every chance we won't even live to enjoy it tomorrow. Our happiness is a fragile thing indeed, and is in no way something we can rely upon. However, Master Shinran taught that, even in a world like this, there is just one single thing that is true, and that is the Nembutsu. The Nembutsu is Namu Amida Butsu, the crystallization of the great virtue of Amida Buddha. When Amida Buddha bestows Namu Amida Butsu upon us, we attain absolute peace and joy, an absolute kind of happiness that permanently fills our being and is not at all based on comparisons, in complete contrast to relative happiness. This takes place in the present life, as opposed to after death in an Ishi Min, the shortest possible unit of time. Master Shinran urged us to listen intently to Buddhism until we reach the point where we hear and receive the extraordinary virtue of Namu Amida Butsu. We cannot gain lasting happiness with our own talent and efforts because we are beings beset by blind passions in a world as fleeting and unstable as a burning house. The one thing in this world of idleness and foolishness that is true is the Nembutsu Namu Amida Butsu. As Amida alone vowed to bring us the real, lasting, absolute happiness we so long for by granting us Namu Amida Butsu, we must turn to Amida Buddha, who will nurture and guide us until the point when we finally find true peace and joy. This is what Master Shinran taught. This channel aims to explain the Buddhist teachings in a way that is as easy to understand as possible, so if you're interested in learning more, why don't you hit that subscribe button so you'll know whenever we release a new video. Thank you for watching.